whores in this house. There's some whores in this house.
I'm very happy to be here.
There's some whores in this house.
I said certified freak. 7
I'm
days
very
a week.
happy to be here.
Wet ass P word. Make that pullout game weak. Yeah, yeah, yeah,
I'm
yeah,
very happy to
yeah,
be
you
here.
effing with some wet ass P word. Bring a bucket and a mop for this wet ass P word. Give me everything you've got for this wet ass P word.
How did the athletes, the actors, entertainers, streamers, the people from the bottom become some of the most influential people in the black community? It's a question I continue to ask because back in the day, we had leaders, Martin Luther King, Malcolm X, Thurgood Marshall, Frederick Douglass, just to name a few. But now, when tragedy strikes or controversial events happen, the world looks to our prominent leaders.
We got Ja Rule on the phone. Let's see what Ja's thoughts are on this tragedy. Who gives a fuck what Ja Rule thinks at a time like this, nigga? This is ridiculous.
Why are celebrities considered leaders in our community? How do the celebrities impact how the world views black people? And what are the consequences when a small group represents our whole culture? And before we get started, I'm gonna be honest with y'all. I'm not trying to be disrespectful, so if it comes off that way,
I look like I give a fuck?
first, let's talk about the media, because other races spend billions of dollars to spread that stereotype about us, and it's profitable, but they spread positive stereotypes about themselves. Do y'all remember sitcoms where African Americans were productive? Now they were funny, don't get me wrong about that, but our most popular shows were positive. I'm talking Family Matter. Steve Urkel was a genius. Carl Winslow was a cop. Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, Uncle Phil was a judge. Bill Cosby in The Cosby Show, he was a doctor and his wife Claire Huxtable was a lawyer. These shows were funny, and still to this day, you can see these reruns. People still think these shows are funny. In fact, my kids watch The Smart Guy. Small black kid who's a genius as well. And don't get me wrong, I love a show like Power, but why are all of our shows like that? Mostly drug dealer shows. You see, the mainstream media doesn't believe a positive, funny show would sell, and they love a good story of a black man selling that rock. Think BMF, Snowfall, Power, and my personal favorite, The Godfather of Harlem, cause I'm from Harlem. But how many black doctors, engineers, small business owners, or college professor shows do you see? None. Compared to a platinum-selling rapper or an NBA superstar documentary. And this isn't to make their achievements look small, but oftentimes when I go speak to a school, especially in a lower income area, most kids think they can only be a rapper, an athlete. Some even joke about being a scammer or a drug dealer. And to be honest with you, 99% of them won't become athletes or rappers, so what else will they have to do but commit crime? The whole school to prison pipeline system. But according to them, anybody can live the American dream. And I'd agree with that to an extent. The story of the lower class individual overcoming adversity to get rich, yes, anyone can do that. But we gotta be honest, that's rare and everyone isn't given an equal chance. And I'm not just talking about being black. Most of us didn't grow up in a two-parent household. Most of our mothers worked multiple jobs to support our family. And most of us grew up in a poor neighborhood. And contrary to popular belief, crime is not a black people thing. It's a poor people thing. So for many black Americans who were historically marginalized and faced systemic barriers like being broke, Hollywood loves this story. Record labels love when we sing about our pain. Sports leagues market the little boy that was a rags to riches athlete. It sells records, tickets, and people watch it. This narrative, while powerful, pushes the idea that success for black people primarily comes through rapping, acting, or throwing a ball. And that's gotta change because it's not just Hollywood. We are also a part of the problem. We consistently focus on entertainers and athletes as well, which is really harmful. When I was growing up, I told people what I wanted to do for a living, what I'm doing now, and people, they laughed at me. A career that's really successful and has about 100,000 jobs in the United States. People thought it was impossible. But when I told them I wanted to go to the NBA, the career that only has 450 jobs, they said, you can do it, keep practicing. even though I'm fucking 5'9". The energy was completely different. Why is that? Why do we always feed into the narrative as well? People see us on the internet putting more focus on kids' sports, dancing, or singing. I see kids on the internet all of the time who can dance their ass off, but put them in front of a book and now all of a sudden they shy. They don't want to read out loud. And I was a substitute teacher. I seen this all the time, and it makes the world think that we believe, not just the media, us. A lot of us believe that black people can only succeed in specific areas, but the educated stuff, probably not. And maybe it's because you have never seen it. I get it. Before they got rid of segregation, we all lived amongst each other. The black doctor lived in the same neighborhood as the school janitor, and this was a blessing in many ways because the school janitor's son got to play and hang out with the doctor's son. And even though his father was a janitor, if he wanted to be a janitor, that was fine. But if he aspired to become a doctor, he knew it was possible because that was what his neighbor was doing. So when he grew up, if he decided that he wanted to pursue being a surgeon, a doctor, that son of the janitor would have a mentor who was a doctor, and that doctor would have watched that young boy grow up and become a man, and in a sense, that boy would be family. But now, all of the successful blacks, including me, I'm a part of the problem. We got money and moved out of these neighborhoods. Our kids don't even go to the same school. And now all that's left for the youth, if we look back in these urban areas, are to aspire to be athletes and entertainers. That's the only successful image they see. If you go to these urban areas, most of these people have never met a black doctor, lawyer, a black engineer. They only see what they see on TV, which is the guys who look like them, who made it out of low income areas, who became a successful entertainer. They no longer see the accomplishments of the black middle and upper class, which is why even if they don't say it subconsciously, they also think all black people can do is sing, dance, or play ball if they want to become successful. But here's the cold hard truth that you probably already know. The vast majority of black Americans are not rappers, actors, or professional athletes. They are architects, nurses, teachers, attorneys, entrepreneurs, scientists, plumbers, electricians, artists of all kinds of communities, organizers, government workers, and everyday working class heroes. We do it all. We are the people. Black professionals and middle class are almost invisible in mainstream media. So the world and young black children often don't see a variety of successful role models who look like them in various professions, limiting their own aspirations and understanding of what's possible. It also means that society gets an incomplete and not so accurate understanding of the black community's capabilities and contributions, which is why if they don't perceive us as entertainers, they think we're all criminals.
Black Americans are about 13 to 14% of the population.
Yes,
about half of all prisoners are black.
Exactly.
So blacks commit more crimes than whites do. They commit more murders, they commit more arsons, they commit more kidnappings. For example, blacks are 13% of the population and they commit 58% of all the murders.
This is a lot. 31% of the prison population is black. Not half, but we have to acknowledge that 31% is still more than 13%. But now you're asking, why is that? It's because crime usually happens in poor neighborhoods, and according to the 2023 census, only 7.7% of whites live below the poverty line, even though they make up 60% of the United States. But 18% of African Americans are poor, even though we make up 13% of the United States. So now you're wondering, why is that number so low for white Americans? I don't know. Maybe it was the 400-year head start you had on everyone else, and you've never given any form of financial reparations for the sins of your ancestors. They've never given black Americans the opportunity to level the playing field. They don't want that, but they want to act like they do. In fact, I'd be willing to bet my whole 401k that if you gave me 40 free turns in Monopoly versus any of the successful white Americans, including Warren Buffett himself, the greatest investor of all time, he wouldn't have shit on me. But you expect us, black Americans, to pull ourselves up by our bootstraps as if the civil rights movement didn't just end in 1968. My grandmother was alive during this movement. And then there's the over-policing in black neighborhoods that we don't talk about. Because in order for you to become a criminal, that means you have to get caught. And black people, for the most part, get caught. But white people don't. Why is that? Well, if you commit a crime in a black neighborhood versus you stealing in a white neighborhood, which neighborhood do you think you're more likely to get stopped in? If you guess the black neighborhood, you're correct. You would get caught in a black neighborhood, because if you're just walking a little bit too fast, you look suspicious and they're gonna stop you for walking fast. In a black neighborhood, especially in the summertime, there are cops everywhere. But what neighborhood are you most likely to get away with crime? A white neighborhood. Not to mention that black Americans make up 53% of the exonerations, which means the government is admitting beyond a reasonable doubt that they got this wrong. Likely because DNA cleared him, or maybe the person wasn't even in the area at the time of the crime. But we gotta be honest, the government doesn't like to admit when they're wrong, especially because they typically have to pay these people for wrongfully accusing them of a crime. But say if a situation is he said, she said, which a lot of crimes are, like rape and assault. If I hit you and there are no cameras around, you said I hit you, I said I didn't, what do we do here? If I actually didn't hit you, but you told the cops I did, I could be sitting in jail and I didn't even commit a crime. So based on those statistics, when it comes to crime in general, black people are more likely to be falsely accused or innocent. But no one wants to talk about that. And we all know, if we're being honest, there are major biases in the system and there's over-policing in black neighborhoods. But let's continue, because the consequences of how white Americans perceive black Americans does more than just damage our reputation, but it allows politicians to ignore us altogether. The truth is, the politicians, they never cared about black Americans, Democrats and Republicans, and they still don't. They have billions to give to the military, to Israel, to Ukraine, but at what point did they give us anything? And the celebrities, they don't help. You give a dumb rapper a mic and they say some of the stupidest things.
I am a young, black, rich. If that don't let you know that America understands black matter these days, I don't know what it is. That man white, he filming me. I don't know what you mean, man. Don't come at me with that dumb man. My life matter, especially to my.
Do you feel, though, connected to?
I don't feel connected to a damn thing that ain't got nothing to do with me. If you do, you crazy as you, not the camera, you.
Now, even though he makes good music, why are we listening to Lil Wayne, a rich drug addict? I swear, give anyone some money and you'll see their true character, what they truly care about, and clearly, all Lil Wayne cares about is pussy, money, weed. Pussy, money, weed. Pussy, money, weed. Cut that bullshit off, but that's all you need. Back in the day, our leaders cared more about community, a better tomorrow, not for just them, but for everybody who looked like us. But it's hard to get politicians to do anything for us when the public's primary exposure to black America is filtered through our celebrities who also don't give a shit about us. The policy decisions your politicians make can be influenced by these limited viewpoints, and them just giving us symbolic things thinking it's gonna be okay. That stuff doesn't make a difference, like putting Black Lives Matter on a street. How does that change the life of any black American? Why do we care when what we need is for the politicians to invest in our youth through programs like Harlem Children's Zone, a non-profit organization, which I'm an alumni of. I swear, the amount of kids that went to college because of Harlem Children's Zone is phenomenal. The amount of kids that were taken off the streets and given a job to do their homework is crazy. I learned how to edit my first video there. That nonprofit organization changed the lives of many, including me. So imagine if we had backing of the federal government and federal funding, who actually wanted to create positive change for us. Imagine instead of over-policing and increasing the police budget, if they invested in the schools in black areas, you could pay people to learn a trade or pay kids to clean up the neighborhoods so they had something to be proud of. But the government would never want to do that, because who would they get to sit in these profitable prisons? Listen, America needs a villain, and unfortunately, it's always been us. black people. So there you have it. The way lower class black Americans who broke big entertainment and sports became the dominant face of black communities isn't accidental, and unfortunately it's gonna be hard to change the stereotype. Anyways, if you thought what I was saying came off a little racist, check out this video where I explain why black people can't be racist. I'm out.